The rain started falling just as the sun disappeared behind the quiet streets of a small town in Oregon. The kind of rain that felt endless, heavy enough to blur the streetlights and make every passing car sound distant and lonely. That night, everything changed for Nathan Carter. He had been living the same quiet life for years, never expecting that a simple knock on his apartment door would bring someone into his life, would change the way he looked at the world forever. When he opened the door and saw a stranger standing there, soaked from the rain and trembling slightly, he had no idea that the words she would say next would stay with him for the rest of his life. Asterisk before we continue. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from. Share this story with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories like this. Asterisk Nathan had lived in the same small apartment building in Portland for almost 6 years. His life was simple, quiet, and predictable. Every morning he woke up early, brewed a cup of black coffee, and walked to the small auto repair shop where he worked as a mechanic. His evenings were usually spent reading old books, fixing small things around the apartment, or watching the rain fall against the window. It wasn't a lonely life exactly, but it was definitely a quiet one. Asterisk, ever since his parents passed away years earlier, Nathan had grown used to solitude. The world outside kept moving quickly, but inside his little apartment time always felt slower, calmer, almost frozen. Asterisk that night though, asterisk the rain had been falling for hours when he heard a soft knock on the door. First he thought he imagined it. No one ever visited him. But then the knock came again, slightly louder this time. Asterisk, when Nathan opened the door, he saw a young woman standing there. Her dark hair was soaked, strands clinging to her face. She looked exhausted, like someone who had been walking for hours without knowing where she was going. Asterisk her name. He later learned was Sarah Mitchell. Asterisk she hesitated before speaking, glancing behind her at the empty hallway, as if unsure whether she should even ask. Asterisk. Then she quietly said the words that started everything. Asterisk. She asked if she could stay there for the night. Asterisk Nathan froze for a moment, unsure what to say. He didn't know this woman. He had never seen her before in the building, yet there was something in her eyes that made it impossible to close the door. Asterisk. He explained awkwardly that his apartment was small and that he only had one bed. The words felt strange even as he said them, like he was apologizing for something he couldn't change. Asterisk, but Sarah simply nodded, as if that detail didn't matter at all. She just needed a place where she could rest. So Nathan stepped aside and let her in. Asterisk, the apartment was warm compared to the cold hallway. Nathan handed her a dry towel and an old sweatshirt that was far too large for her, but she wrapped herself in it gratefully. For a while, neither of them said much. The rain tapped softly against the windows, while the small kitchen light filled the room with a quiet, golden glow. Asterisk. Eventually, Sarah explained that she had been traveling across states trying to start over. Things hadn't gone the way she planned. Jobs fell through, money ran out. And sometimes life simply refused to cooperate no matter how hard someone tried. Asterisk. She didn't go into too many details. But Nathan could tell there was a deeper story behind her tired voice. Asterisk. Nathan had always been a quiet listener. As a mechanic, he spent most of his day fixing problems without many words. That night, he did the same thing he always did best. He listened. Hours passed like that. Two strangers sitting in a small apartment while the storm continued outside. Asterisk eventually. Nathan insisted she'd take the bed. He'd spread a blanket on the couch, telling her he was used to sleeping there anyway. She tried to argue, but exhaustion finally won. Asterisk, before she fell asleep. She thanked him in a voice so soft, it was almost lost in the sound of the rain. Asterisk, the next morning the storm was gone. Asterisk. Sunlight poured through the window like a fresh beginning. Asterisk Nathan expected Sarah to leave early, but she stayed for coffee. They talked more than they had the night before. He learned that she had been a nursing student in California before life took an unexpected turn. Family issues forced her to leave school, and she had spent the past year moving from place to place trying to rebuild something stable. Asterisk Nathan, on the other hand, admitted that he had never really left Portland. The city was familiar, safe, predictable. Asterisk, for the first time in years. Nathan felt like his quiet world had suddenly opened a door he never knew existed. Asterisk, Sarah ended up staying longer than just one night. Asterisk. At first, it was only for a few days, while she looked for work. Nathan helped her search for job listings, and eventually she found a temporary position at a nearby diner. The pay wasn't much, but it was a start. Days slowly turned into weeks. Something changed in the apartment during that time. The silence that once felt normal began to disappear. Laughter replaced it. Conversations stretched late into the night. The small kitchen suddenly smelled like real meals instead of quick microwave dinners. Nathan realized something surprising. For the first time since losing his parents, he didn't feel alone. Asterisk, Sarah brought a different energy into his life. She had this quiet determination that inspired him. Even after long shifts at the diner, she still talked about finishing nursing school someday. Her dream hadn't disappeared. It had only been delayed. Nathan began believing in that dream too. But life rarely stays simple. Asterisk. Right. One evening, Sarah came home holding a letter. Her expression looked complicated, part excitement, part fear. Asterisk. She had been accepted into a nursing program in Seattle. It was an opportunity she had been waiting for. The chance to continue the life she once thought was gone forever. Asterisk. But Seattle was 3 hours away. Asterisk, that night felt strangely similar to the night she first knocked on Nathan's door. Rain started falling again, soft at first, then heavier as the evening went on. Asterisk, Nathan didn't want to admit it, but the thought of her leaving made his chest feel heavy. Asterisk, still, he knew what this meant for her. Asterisk, dreams sometimes require leaving comfort behind. Asterisk, when Sarah packed her small bag the next morning, the apartment felt quiet again. Too quiet, asterisk, before she left. She hugged Nathan tightly and thanked him for the kindness he showed a stranger on a rainy night. Asterisk. She told him that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness become the biggest turning points in someone's life. Asterisk, then. She walked out the door. Months passed. Nathan returned to his usual routine, but something inside him had changed. The world didn't feel as small anymore. Every now and then he received a message from Sarah telling him about her classes, the long nights studying, the challenges she faced, and the excitement of finally being close to becoming a nurse. Asterisk, he realized that even though she left, the connection between them never disappeared. Asterisk, then one autumn afternoon. Nearly a year later, Nathan heard another knock on his door. For a moment his heart stopped. When he opened it, Asterisk stood there again. Asterisk, this time she wasn't soaked from rain. She looked stronger, brighter, more confident. Around her neck hung a small hospital ID badge. She had finished her training. She told Nathan that the hospital in Portland had offered her a job. She was moving back. The quiet mechanic who once believed his life would always stay the same suddenly realized something important. That rainy night, when a stranger asked to stay, had been the beginning of something neither of them expected. Asterisk. Sometimes life doesn't change through big dramatic moments. Asterisk, sometimes it changes through a simple knock on a door and a decision to be kind. Before we finish this story, if it touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes in the power of kindness, and subscribe to the channel so more people can hear stories like this. Asterisk, also, I have a small request. For you, asterisk, in the comments, write the word kindness if you believe that one small act can change someone's entire life. Asterisk. Because sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with the simplest question, a stranger standing in the rain, and the quiet words that started everything.